How to respond to the claim that churches focus so much on homosexuality but not adultery, even though adultery is in the Ten Commandments?
Right. So I think what we do is we find ourselves speaking to the issues that are most pressing. And I wish, actually, I don't even think that many pastors are speaking about homosexuality in the pulpit. I could be wrong. But my sense of it is, and maybe you get a better sense of this, talking to a lot of pastors.
I think in the area where I am, I rarely hear it talked about, but I wonder about other areas.
I'll actually bet you that more pastors are comfortable in engaging issues related to adultery than they are homosexuality.
That I guarantee.
Okay, so it's really kind of the flip on this. But regardless of that, I would say that in every culture, in every moment in culture, we are probably talking about those things that pose what we think is the greatest threat to worldview. And so it wouldn't surprise me if a lot is being written and talked about, and at least fretted about, related to some of these issues related to gender identity, homosexuality, and same-sex marriage issues. I think we would say probably some attention's being given to that right now, because that's the moment we're in. If you go back 30 years ago, that was not the moment we were in. And the moment we were in was really about kind of open marriages and the decline of marriage, no-fault marriage. These were the no-fault divorce, rather. These were the kinds of things that were pressing against the ethics of the church. And so I think more people were probably wringing their hands, and they didn't even think of this as being an issue we'd ever have to discuss. Mm-hmm. But here we are in this moment. And so I think that's probably why. But I still don't think the statement's even really true. I think that churches aren't focusing, they're skipping and avoiding it. Or there's only three ways to react to this, right? One is to be silent. That's probably what most churches are doing. Two is to acquiesce. There's some percentage of churches that are probably acquiescing. And then third is to say, look, folks, this is what the Bible teaches on this issue, and they're going to push back a little bit, or a lot. And I bet you, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the smallest percentage. Mm-hmm. I could be totally wrong on this. I don't have any statistics to back it up. My own anecdotal sense of it is that most churches are silent, and I wouldn't be surprised if more denominations and groups are acquiescing on the issue than are pushing back.
I think if there started to be a huge movement where people were saying adultery was not wrong and adultery was celebrated, you definitely see Christians talking about that. And I can see that happening. Yeah, I can too.
Well, we already see now. I scanned through all of the most popular op-ed and opinion pages nationally, every paper, New York Times, to whatever it is. I do that every single day. And I do see more and more articles, for example, on polyamory or on issues of open marriage. Right? You see this a lot more because this is where this is heading. And I think as we head in this direction, you will see those become discussions in the church.
Not too long ago, Greg actually read an article from a Christian. I put in quotes because I don't know, but
yeah.
And it was defending polyamory.
Right. So I think you're gonna see this is the battleground of the future. But I think, again, why do we pick certain battlegrounds? That's what the question is here. And we pick those battlegrounds based on what we feel the battle is in that moment. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are today. But I honestly don't think that many pastors are even addressing the issue.
I think, and I think in response to that, what I would ask the person, if someone is claiming to you that churches are focusing so much on homosexuality and not on adultery.
Right.
What I would ask is, where are you seeing Christians focus on this? My guess is it's not in church services. It's probably on TV.
Or in social media.
In social media.
Yeah,
so
Mm-hmm.
It's probably people, a very small subset of people who are specifically being asked about it or are being promoted, their views being promoted by the media about it. It's probably not from church services. So maybe you could use this as an opportunity to say, hey, you want to come to my church service and see what it's actually like and see what we actually talk about? I think a lot of people think we talk about politics in church, and that's not how it is. At least that's not how it is in my church.
No, I agree. And some people would argue that it needs to be... I try to be the most apolitical person, but I'm not ignorant of the issues. I just don't want to divide along political lines because I'm never a big fan of people who run in parties. And if we really wanted to find a party that agreed with everything we thought, we'd have to have as many parties as there are people, Or now I might pick a party that agrees more with me than the other parties. So I might say, well, Amy Hall's got a party, and I like that her views. We don't agree on everything, but she's far closer to my views than anyone else I know. Well, now guess what? Every time you say anything, I'm going to be judged by what you said because you are an Amy Hall. You're part of her party. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that Amy says, but she's closer to me on these issues than other parties, and that's why I'm in her party. So the point I'm trying to make is that I think that we sometimes get lumped in, and just because you see a Christian who's ranting about something, and isn't it always that case where we are the smallest percentage who are vocal? We call this nut picking, right? So what we'll say is that person is a nut, and all of you are Christians too, therefore you're all nuts. And when in fact it may just be that we've got a crazy person speaking at that time. So, but again, in this issue, I think that this is an important issue, homosexuality, and it's not a nutty issue. But I think that I wish more of us were addressing this, and I don't think it's happening in the pulpit. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for watching our video. If it was helpful and useful to you, I'd really appreciate it if you would follow us, subscribe to our channel at the bottom link here in the video, and tell your friends. And please follow us on social media.